Because of the wide use of cyberspace and our dependence on it, we have an inherent vulnerability, and that's why it's vital that we defend it properly. Generally, in warfare, you have an organized enemy, a force that's mobilized by a country, has a nation's backing. The cyberspace attacks can occur on an individual basis. Anybody with a $200 laptop and the right skill sets can go in and wreak havoc in cyberspace. Some examples of where you would find cyberspace are the control of power systems. Nuclear power is regulated through the use of computers. Your water system is regulated through computer systems. Because we operate so much in cyberspace, that is the new battlefield. It's constantly changing, and therefore we need to be able to adapt and overcome the problems that we face in cyberspace. And the Air Force is there to answer that call. In the future, this is going to be the premier warfighting domain. This is going to be where the major battles occur. I'm Captain Scott Hink, and I'm an Air Force Cyber Warrior.
Welcome back, everyone. As CyberEarth 21 continues, let's talk a little more about those perfect STEM resumes featuring tech, cyber, or even DevSecOps overtones for new internships, entry-level positions, and transformational career moves across our industry. Hi, I'm Perry Carter, today's host on Popular Technology TV. Our fifth and final episode of this season's Earth Day Tech Summit highlights what one may want to include on these resumes we seek. We will touch a little bit on operational security, or OPSEC, and what's in your cyber persona. With us today is our special guest and one of the Air Force's cyber warriors previously mentioned, Mr. Anthony Stills, Deputy Section Chief from Air Force's Cyber. A staunch supporter of BDPA, Mr. Stills is an operational tier lead for United States Cyber Command at Fort Meade, Maryland. He plans, coordinates, integrates, and conducts defensive adversary and analytical strategy on the Department of Defense information networks in order to enable actions in all domains. This ensures the United States and allied freedom of actions in and through cyberspace while denying the same to all of our adversaries. Mr. Stills served as a Philadelphia police officer, whereupon he also attended law school. Mr. Stills left law school to join the officer ranks of the United States Marine Corps. As a reservist, he returned to the Philadelphia Police Department and served as the Information Technology Lead for Internal Affairs, or IAD, in their computer support section until he resigned to manage, build, and sell computers for Gateway LLC. Returning to active duty after 9/11, Mr. Stills served until he became an Air Force civilian. Mr. Stills has been to Iraq as a Marine officer and served in Afghanistan as an Air Force civilian. Today, Mr. Stills currently supports several systems and integration management initiatives for USCYBERCOM. Just for fun, he has built and engineered two gadgets, a remote control lawnmower chassis and a mobile oil change trailer. That's good stuff. Mr. Stills, welcome to our session this morning, sir. Thank you very much for sharing your Saturday with us. How's everything going?
It's going well, and I just want to say thank you for having me as a part of the 5th Annual Earth Day Summit. It is my pleasure, it's really my honor to be able to represent my organization and the things that I've done over the years to now be able to speak as a subject matter expert in cybersecurity. But I'm going to talk about who I am, but then I'm going to talk about the real gist of the matter, and it's really the desire of the students and even the parents and adults that are here. I started my career at Penn State University, graduated with a criminal justice degree, wanted to go into law school, and I actually went to law school with one of the district attorneys for Philadelphia, but something drew me. During the day, I was a police officer walking a foot beat. Um, at that time, I ran into some of the most interesting people that life have to offer. And one of those people was a Mr. Kim who had a computer store. He had, in 1992, he had a small computer store. He had a grand opening, and then the next day, someone threw a Molotov cocktail into the place and burned it down. So he had a grand closing the next day. What he did was, and how did I know this? Because I was the officer who was walking a foot beat that had to take the police report in reference to the fire. But he didn't cry about it. He just said, I'm going to push on. I'm going to let the insurance take care of it. And so I asked him, how are you going to, get these computers? He said, well, my son and I, and his son was he couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 years old, but he knew how to put the computers together. And this is in 1992. So I said, you know what? During my free time, I'm going to go and work for him and learn how to put these computers together. And that's what I did. So from 1992 to probably 1995, I was putting those small computers together, understanding the different technologies, understanding the cabling, understanding different networks and what the language was, learning how to code, getting certified in Fortran and COBOL. I was actually learning what they call ethical hacking, certified ethical hacking, the CEH, during that time, because you learn how things work. So became a police officer, joined the Marine Corps because of a young man who inspired me. He said, you know what, you would make a good leader. So I said, okay, I'll try the Marine Corps. Didn't know what I was doing. Found out that I had a passion. I had a passion for leadership. And so I became a communications officer in the Marine Corps. I work with those satellites. I work with the Navy. I work with different organizations as it relates. The weather guy that was on previously, NNOA, NRO. Right now, I work for USCYBERCOM, and the National Security Agency supports all of my cybersecurity initiatives that I represent for United States Cyber Command. So as an officer in the Marine Corps, I learned how to do the planning for satellites, the planning for UHF and VHF radios. And I give you all of this context. I give you all of this context because sometimes there'll be people who talk about knowing things, but they have no background in it. They have no education in it. And I will tell you, and the real meat of my presentation is going to come when I start talking about our career development and employment. That's the real presentation that I want you to get out of this. So, join the Marine Corps. While I was in the Marine Corps, I got out. I traveled around the world, lived in California, lived in Tampa, Florida, as a communications officer, doing those satellite links and communications, setting up computers and putting in privileges and security and biometrics and all of those different things that we have right now for the United States Marine Corps. When that time was up, I went back to the police department and said, you know what, I think there is a need for computers, not just to the government, but to everybody. And so there was a small company. It's no longer in existence. I think it got bought out by IBM. You may have heard of it. It was called Gateway Computers. And at Gateway Computers, I opened up the first Gateway computer store in Fairfax, Virginia in 2000. Unfortunately, there was 9/11. So with my specific computer skills, I was one of the Marines who was involuntarily reactivated back into the Marine Corps because I got out thinking I wasn't going to go back into the Marine Corps. I wanted a civilian career. but the needs of the country weighed heavily on me, and I saluted smartly, kissed my wife, and I said, you know what, I gotta serve my country. So off into the Marine Corps I went. While in the Marine Corps, they needed people who understood how computers worked, and then they needed people to tell some engineers who aren't necessarily computer people what the vulnerabilities were of, for example, Wi-Fi, or what's the vulnerability of fiber optic glass, or what's the vulnerability with not having the right configuration in the software. Previously, there was a weatherman from the NNOA. He was talking about his satellites, and he was talking about a lot of data. But if that data is corrupted by people who have malicious intent, how good is the data, right? What I do currently is I am writing the cybersecurity policy for the protection of the Department of Defense's network. That's what I do right now as a federal employee. But that's not necessarily what I want to talk about. So I am telling you this right now because I want you to have some context, because context is very, very important. Context is almost it's the implementation of understanding what a person is saying while you're in the conversation. So if somebody says hi and they're talking about distance from the ground and you're thinking they're saying hello, same word, pronounced the same, two totally different meanings, right? So we have to be on the same sheet of music, talking about the same things. You hear people say, you're talking about apples and oranges, and I have this one saying, but I'll leave it for later because it's a very poignant in our understanding of this 5th annual Earth Day Summit, because what you need to know, I would like to just give you a small portion of it. And what I'm going to give you should, and I hope it is my hope that you'll be energized to not only ask questions, but you'll also want to go and do some research. You'll want to address some of the questions that I heard and some of the challenges that I heard other speakers have. And I look forward to the dialogue. So while I was in the Marine Corps, I got a master's degree in national strategy. So national strategy is where should our country be as it relates to a superpower around the world. So I got a master's degree in that. Right after I got out the police department, before I took on the career as, before I left the police department to open up the Gateway computer store, I got a master's degree in computer science, which allowed me to be able to understand all of the theories and know the theories that's related to how computers talk, and Fortran and COBOL and C++ and cybersecurity. So I understood that. And then in 2018, after having a career in the police department, having a small business, having experienced a lot of different things, I said, you know what, I'm going to go back and get schooling, because what I have learned is that the most valuable resource any company has is its people, right? It's not the tools, it's not the technology, it is the people. And so I have 3 master's degrees, a master's degree in computer science, a master's degree in national strategy, and I just graduated from Bowie State University with a master's degree in human resource development. And really what human resource development is, and if you've not gone to it, if you work for a company, you've gone through human resource development. If you are applying for a job, if you need a job, you will apply to that company through their human resources department. So you will go through a human resource department. And what I intend to give you in the next couple minutes are those tools that you need to either get your career started because you've never been in the market, to change careers, or to change who you want to be in terms of the career that you may be in right now may not be the career that you really have a passion for. So with that, I'm going to first just say again, it is my pleasure to be a part of this presentation. It's my pleasure to be a part of this Earth Day Summit, and I look forward to your questions because I know I'm going to get it. I know I'm going to get a lot of questions. So first thing, one of the things I want to say is what you do right now, young people, what you do right now will reflect your ability to get a job in the future. Specifically, I think there were two people who spoke before me. They both reference clearances. What you do right now will affect your ability to be able to get a secret clearance or those higher clearances. So take care. I'm gonna say be the nerd. Be the jock that doesn't get in trouble. You know, excel at what you do. Be the best at what you do, and do your best not to get in trouble. So I'm going to continue on. The first thing I'm going to say, so the agenda that I have for you today is I'm going to talk about what it is to now that I have in my life reassess what I want to do and know that it feels really good to reflect on my life and know that what I have done is what my passion is. My passion has always been technology. My passion has always been, I wonder if I can tweak this. I wonder if I can go into this computer game and change it so that the green that they have is emerald green versus green grass, or I want the sky blue versus this water blue. And so my passion has always been technology. And so what I'm going to do with you is I'm going to go through a couple things, and I have given this presentation to the team, to the leads, but what I'm going to talk about is, so for those folks who you're looking for internships, you may be coders. I'm going to talk about how do you get an internship. I'm going to talk about employment for graduates. I'm going to talk about what employers look at when you try or when you apply to their company as an employee. I'm going to talk about 4 job hunting myths. I'm going to talk about the resume I'm going to talk about, people call it a resume, but I'm going to say it is your 1-page cyber persona of you have written down who you are with all of your things that you think will, when somebody read it, say, I want that person on my team. And then I'm going to wrap up with questions. Is that all right? Okay. So first question that I have is, what is a job hunting campaign? And so the way I do my research is, like I said, I take words, and words mean something. Earlier today, someone, the previous speaker, he said something that I didn't quite feel comfortable with. He called it disruptive technology. Disruptive technology has a negative connotation to it, but really technology just changes, right? It isn't good, it isn't bad, it just is. But how we use things can can make one think something is good or bad. So words really mean something. And as a coder, as a person who writes code, letters, punctuation, special characters mean something to all my coders out there who know that Tony Stills is telling you the truth. So what is a job hunting campaign? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to break down job. What is a job, right? Because at the end of the day, after being a police officer, after being in the Marine Corps, after having my own small business, after having a hobby. Oh yeah, and by the way, I did build a couple things because, like I said, my passion is to really just fix things or try things. And like they say, if I can't fix it, then the person who's the specialist, the plumber, the carpenter, the roofer, they will come and earn their money. But I'm at least going to ask you to try, because by trying, you gain stuff. So I'm going to talk about what is a job hunting campaign. So what is a job? And I'm going to define these things for you. And if you want this presentation, please ask for it and they'll send you a copy. But a job is a piece of work, especially a specific task that's done as part of a routine of one's occupation for an agreed price. So that's what a job is. What is hunting? To search, seek, endeavor to find something. And then what is a campaign? A campaign is a systematic course of aggressive activities for a specific purpose. So if you don't have a job, or you don't have the job you want, and you want that job, you're on a job hunting campaign because you want better for either you, somebody you love, or it may just be to solve some problem that the world just needs a solution for. So I'm going to talk about, so I'm walking through this because when Perry asked me to do this, he said they were going to be interns. And so I'm going to ask you this question, and it's rhetorical because I'm going to give you the answers to it, but I would like you to just in your heart think, or in your mind think about what is the correct answer. And if the answer jumps out as correct, these are the things, the correct things are the things that I want you to walk away with. So how are jobs found? First, they go through employment agencies, right? There are employment agencies, newspapers. You find a job through employment agencies. The next is help wanted. Those are the papers. You look in the newspaper, or you go online now. Well, today we go online. Monster, Indeed, other sites where you go and get, that's what they call the help wanted. And then there are friends that you might be talking to, and that is why it's always good to network, because you never know what another person knows, or they may have a job that you may want to do, but if you never talk about it to them, they'll never know you want it. So how are jobs found? Help wanted, employment agencies, friends, and then internships. Internships are one of the best ways to get your foot in the door. So I'm going to ask you, did you know this? Did you know that there is an 80% success rate for job seekers who get internships and are referred to the employer by a friend who worked for a company? So what happens is, as you learn, as you intern with the company, what happens? People see you, you see them, they like you, you leave because the internship is over, but there are always opportunities for you to stay. Well, if there is somebody in that company who will support you, or who will intercede for you with HR, odds are 80% chance that you'll get the job. And that's pretty good, because in today's society, like right now, folks need jobs. But if they're looking in all the wrong places, they're not going to find the jobs that they want. So when you are looking for employment, these are just common things that I know you know this. And if you don't know it, this is just a gentle reminder. So I'm going to ask you, when you apply for a job, be clear and honest about the kind of work you want. When you are honest about the kind of work you want, and you go in for an interview and they start asking you questions, as an interviewer, I read body language. I guess maybe it's the investigative portion of my career. I'm looking at body language. I'm looking at the things you say. I'm looking whether or not you twitching, you looking down. I'm looking at those nonverbal cues to help me understand, is this person telling me the truth? So that's one thing. If you think you're going to get the first job that you apply for, I will say odds are, in this economy right now, slim to none. You'll probably get more rejections than you will get. So the whole point is apply for more than just one job. And then once you apply for the job, be real that you might have to start at the very beginning, because you don't know any of the process or procedures or the rules that a company might follow in order for their business to move forward. So you might have to start at the low level. I know people always want to start in and they want to come in first year as the boss, but adults know better. I think they do. And then work experience is work experience. Work experience is work experience. And so volunteering counts, your intern counts, and nothing beats volunteering to do things that you like to do and then to get paid to do what you like to do. So when you go to a job or you're looking for that job, there are several things that you need to do in order to understand where you'll be if you get hired, or if you're going to apply for, you want to pilot the next spacecraft. You're not going to just apply for it on usajobs.gov or indeed.com. There's education that goes behind it, meaning you have to be realistic about what it is you're trying to do. You need to gain the experience that's necessary to be that pilot. You need to get the education that's necessary to be that weather person. You just can't say, I look at clouds and then all of a sudden I'm a weatherman. You need to create the connections and make sure that you network with the appropriate people. And who are those appropriate people? Like I said, in the end, if you do the things that you love, you will associate with the people in the line of business where you want to be, or you should, because as you get older, there are things you start to do. And so when you go to school, when you start to go to school, how do you have to say to yourself, well, how are you going to pick your subject or your career, the topics that you want to have in college? You know, what do you want to study in college? Well, first thing is you have to look at all of the things that you like, and then be able to be honest with yourself and say, this is what I really like. Now, high probability is high or low. What's the probability that you'll get a job doing something that is it high or low? Something that you really like. If you are very passionate at something, probably you're very good at it. What's the probability if you're really good at it and there's a job opening, you'll get that job? High or low? It's probably very high. So you have to, I would always say, from an educational perspective, as a student trying to decide on what they want to study, look at the things that you really like on the inside, the things that you love to do, that regardless of what other people think about what you're doing, you like it. So that if you're not getting paid, you still want to do it. But 9 times out of 10, if you're passionate about something and there's a job available and you're the number one person, you'll probably get the job. So as always, I would say, when you go into a company, You got to be professional. You have to be prepared. You have to be persistent. You can't just give up on the first rejection, right? You have to continue. Every parent will say failure is part of life. And so if you just stopped at your first failure, if you ever see a baby fall, when they first learn to walk, that first fall, they fall on their face, they start crying, but guess what? They get back up. We are the same way, but we're not babies, we're adults, and you're the same thing. Don't give up. Be persistent. Be realistic about the things that when you go forward looking for a job, these are the things that you have to do. So I'm gonna go back because I know I need to go back over them. I'm gonna repeat them one more time because I went through 7 things that you have to do. 1, you have to gain experience. 2, you have to network, create connections. 3, you have to be professional. One thing is, I may have missed it the first time, but you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. So if you show up unprepared, unorganized, late, you mess up your impression with the people who may have wanted to give you the job, but you left a bad impression. So gain experience, make connections, be professional, first impressions, be prepared, don't give up, be persistent, and 7, be realistic. All right, so now I'm going to talk about, there are 4 things that I have given this presentation to no less than 50 people. No, I know it's no less because I had a department of the Health and Human Services in DC, and I sat with 50 people in one class. And so we went over these things and they were like, yep, I know that's right. So there are 4 job hunting myths. The first one is the good jobs is going to come find you. No, it's not. That's just the myth. I know I see one amen. I see one yes, I see you. All right, so that's the first myth. The second myth is you can do it all by yourself. You don't need any help. Well, I'm just going to say you were not born by yourself. Everybody needs help to live, to learn, and to thrive. So you can't do it by yourself. The third job hunting myth that I would like to talk about is jobs are easy to find. Well, I was looking at CNN earlier this morning, and one of the topics was jobs aren't as easy to find. But if you listen to the previous speakers, all of them had places where you can go. And even during this presentation, I've already sent this presentation on, but I will tell you that there are places where you can go because now you know where you can apply for jobs, you can apply for education, you can apply for grants, and you can apply for internships. So jobs are not easy to find. Most people believe they are. I don't know where they are, but anybody can walk to the corner and work at McDonald's because it's in the neighborhood. But the jobs that we're talking about at NNOA, at the State Department, at the federal government, how does one apply for the police department? How does one become a fireman? If you don't know, you won't be able to get the job. So you have to find those jobs, and jobs that the really good jobs are not easy to find. And then the fourth job hunting myth that I hear and I say, I know this one isn't true because I tell you this, so the fourth one is people will say, I just want a job. I'll do anything. No, you won't. Because soon as they say that, I say, okay, well, come sweep this floor and clean out the bathroom. They don't, well, I don't want that kind of job. Then you won't do anything. Right? Right. All right. So as you are going on your job hunting campaign, you take all those things into account. Now comes the time for you to put together what I call your cyber persona. It is who you are people call it a resume, a curriculum vitae, but at the end of the day, it's on your computer, it's in your phone, it's in the internet, it's somewhere, it's part of some big data, right? It is part of something, but it's not real. It's electronic. So I call your resume your electronic persona. Your electronic persona is broken up into 3 parts. Those 3 parts are who you are, what you've done, and then what you know. I broke it down into those 3 sections because it's easy to talk about who you are. You already know that, right? In the presentation that I have given, I've actually given you my resume. It may be dated about a year or so, but it is who I am. It also has my contact information as I would want you to present it today, because what I do in my federal job is I write policy on the internet to protect big data. So not only am I going to tell you a little bit about what I do as a federal employee, I really want to tell you how do you go about getting your internship. I will give you the site for the National Security Agency's internship program. I'll put that in the meeting chat. But right now, I just want to say these are the things that I believe are important for you to break your cyber persona, who you are, right? Who you are. So it says, so if you have any, personal, professional strengths, you have any certifications, those are things that like, I'm a Microsoft certified systems engineer, you're an engineer, you're a doctor. That is who you are. The next part is, what have you done, right? So if you've done things, make sure, and you're no longer doing them, parents will tell you that means it's in the past. So you can't say you were doing something and then use the present tenses. So you have to know and speak the English for the company to want to have you as part of their team. So for past jobs, all of the verbs should be in the past tense. Does that make sense? Good. All right. And then part 3. Part 3 for me is, so you've told them who you are, you told them what you can do, and now you get to talk about what it is you know. And that's where I talk about education, knowledge, skills, and your abilities. Like you graduated from high school, you participated in robotics, you write code. These are all skills and abilities that you have. Okay? So, can anybody tell me the difference between blue collar jobs and white collar jobs? Well, in this presentation, I do a comparison and contrast. I have blue collar jobs and white collar jobs. For example, a blue collar job is a job that requires physical labor, is known as a blue collar job. A white collar job is a job that requires clerical work, computers, is known as a white collar job. You work inside, right? So it just so happens that the color of the attire usually is based off of, like, well, what color is my shirt, right? Well, if I were in the office, this would be white. So I'd be a white collar. All right. So the difference between it's not really the color of the attire, because you can wear anything you want nowadays. It's not necessarily what you look like, it's what you can do for the company. So place of work difference is blue collar jobs, you usually in the field or in an industrial location like a factory or sanitation or law enforcement. White collar jobs, you're in the office. All right. Did you know that they call blue collar people workers and white collar people employees? When you start getting into HR, there is a difference. Blue collar jobs have wages. White collar jobs have salaries, right? All right, so the basis, so that's what they call remuneration, the money aspect of it. And then the basis of payment. blue collar jobs usually are hours work. White collar jobs is based off your performance. Like if you work on the stock market, you can make a lot of money. You can make a lot of money, but it all depends, right? Okay, so blue collar job, the requirement for the job. Most blue collar jobs require physical, right? What you can do. Most white collar jobs require thought, knowledge work, how smart you are, what you know. Blue collar jobs, you usually get paid daily or bi-weekly. Most white collar jobs, either bi-weekly, monthly, or quarterly. So there you have it. Okay, occupations. So in conclusion, by comparing these jobs, you can come to the conclusion that blue collar jobs involve more laborious work in contrast to white collar jobs where people sit in offices, they have air conditioners. When you look at like Stark International in the movies and the Avengers, he had that big building. Most blue white collar workers, they're the ones that's sitting at the desk. Most of the blue collar workers, they're the ones polishing the floors, making sure the electricity's on, making sure the water's not running in the bathroom. The workplace for white collar jobs are usually much more clean as compared to blue collar jobs. And I would hope that you will ask me questions. If you disagree or agree, I appreciate the feedback. In the presentation, I have that there are the last research that I have, there were 834 valid occupations in the United States. In the presentation that I've given to the leads for this summit, I've put the links in that presentation so that you can go and click on the links and it'll take you to where you would need to be in order to find the definitions of those different occupations. So that concludes my portion of the brief, and now I would like to entertain any questions that you might have.
Now, when any department goes out into the community, we're able to hear the positive responses. And that is a great feeling to know that what we're doing is affecting and impacting the community. In the past, we've heard negative responses about the city being unclean, there's a lot of trash on the ground, or the police, we never see them.
It was important for our residents to feel as though that government was going to be responsive.
People were relying on a 9 to 5 being able to contact about any issues that they had.
We put together a very innovative app that gave our residents access.
IBM assisted the City of Seat Pleasant to incorporate Watson into the My Seat Pleasant app. Any resident who has a question that they want to ask about the city on a 24-hour basis can go into the app and click on Watson to ask it a question.
We had a tree fall, and instead of having to call City Hall, I just went and used the chat and said that there's a tree falling in the middle of the street, and they sent Public Works out to get it for me.
I've used it to report potholes that are in the street. I've used it to see what's going on in the city.
No matter where our Public Works director is, no matter where our employees are, they're able to log in because it is on IBM Cloud and get the service request in real time and respond, in a quick and efficient manner.
It allows them to get to us sooner. On a weekend doesn't matter because it comes through, I'm gonna get it. So I love it. I don't see how we ever did without it.
We do have questions for you, sir.
Okay.
One of the ones up top is, how do we prepare for technical interviews?
Technical interviews. So if you are going to apply for a technical interview, and one of the things that one of the previous speakers spoke about was he spoke about big data. He spoke about, doing analysis. Know what you know, because if you're going to apply for a job, a technical job, right? If you think you're the person, you have to do a little bit of research about about the company. Go online and look up the company so that you have some insight into where you're going, because that insight, believe it or not, the people who are interviewing you may not even know that this information is out there on the internet. So to prepare for that, what you do is you just go and look up the company, find its website, look up some of the things. But if it's a technical meeting, if it's a technical interview, and you're, for example, don't come in here saying you know Fortran, and I start busting out some code and you don't know what I'm talking about. Obviously, you don't know Fortran or COBOL or C++ or cybersecurity. Know what you know so that when they ask you in the interview, there is no doubt in their mind that you know, or you could just say, give me a computer and I'll show you. You have to display that level of confidence, because prior to meeting you, and I will say, Perry, people are skeptics. Show me the money. Show you the money. Show me that you can do what you say you can do. And until you get there, until you're hired. So to answer the question, and how do you prepare for a technical meeting? Know and do your homework about what it is you're applying for. Make sure that your resume addresses the questions or the needs and requirements that are in the interview or in the job description, and it says it in your resume that you can do or have done what they believe they need a person to do for them, and you're it.
Now, the follow-on to that is, in those technical interviews, do they actually split them up? For example, sometimes it's not one interview. You may get a series of interviews or a series of people to get through. Have you seen that, especially in our fields?
Absolutely. I just got out of a hiring summit at the National Security Agency. I was doing the hiring. I had to look through I had 3 days to look through 122 different resumes, right? I had to go through. The easiest way to weed them out, if you have any spelling mistakes because you haven't used spelling or error correction, out. If you didn't answer the questions that I said, if you didn't have in your resume somewhere where I said, I need a cybersecurity specialist, and you never said that you did cybersecurity, and I got to read through it and assume next, right? So that was it.
Now, the other one is, who are the real hiring managers inside growth organizations? And
So-
the other, it's a two-part question. You want to do that one first?
So the real hiring man. So HR is not the people. The people doing the hiring may not necessarily be the people that when you get the job, you're not working with those people. They're just doing the hiring. They're the ones, they're the firewall, they're the front door to get you to the place where you want to be. In United States Cyber Command, we are doing cybersecurity. We are actually in the cyber fight. I don't have time to do interviews when I have people, countries, hackers, glitches, 0 days, malwares. We are all engaged in fighting that cyber fight. Unfortunately, because we're fighting, I always say, we're flying a plane and building it at the same time. I don't have time to hire. I need some pilots. Get me some pilots. I'm still flying the plane, so I don't have time to hire. People have to spend sometimes with these large new organizations where there is already a vacuum in things that need to be done. There's a lot to do and not enough people to do it. So the people that's doing it, like me, who are overworked, are looking for those people. So yes, you might go several interviews because I want to know if you're technically the right person. Then I talked about that clearance. Well, in the position where I am, yes, you need a top secret SCI with a polygraph, right? So anybody with that clearance, I can pretty much tell you their profile of their life for the last 10 years. And then if you're young, 10 years might be more than half your life. So I know what you've already done. So what you do right now can affect your future. So yes, there are multiple parts to the interview. Can you do what you say you can do? Do you have the clearance, right? And then are you trustworthy enough? Do you have your finances together such that you can't be compromised in the future if I give you the job and now you're doing the job? That other piece, that what you do on the job is not necessarily what you do at home, but it matters. Did I answer your question?
It did. And the second part to that was, see, who wants, so the people that need to see that cyber persona, are they one and the same? Is the hiring manager and the people that need to see that cyber persona, are they one and the same?
Not, so it depends. For example, I used to be a penetration tester. So they used to give me all of the penetration tested resumes and be like, is this a good guy? Well, I can't really tell you with this piece of paper what that person can do. That person could have used his brother's resume. So I looked at the resume. Now I want to get him in here. And guess what? When you show up to my office, I'm the hiring guy, but I'm gonna put you with my malware analyst. And I'm gonna see if you can actually, so I would say if I own the airport, right? And I have multiple different sections of the airport, and you say you're a pilot, I'm gonna go just put you with the pilots and let the pilots tell me if you're a real pilot, even though I'm the one that's hiring you, even though I'm the one that's making your salary. That is how it's done in businesses across the board. The resume that you send in is only to get you in the door. That's why I call it your cyber persona. It doesn't necessarily reflect what you can do now and what you are willing to learn in the future.
Good analogy.
So does that answer your question?
Oh yeah, that was a great analogy, especially for our Air Force fans. Next one is, do tech companies or agencies hire folks with liberal arts degrees or no degrees?
So it depends, because one of the things, so where does innovation comes from? Innovation comes from the people who do the work, right? There aren't a whole bunch of people just sitting around thinking, I wonder how to go to the moon. People will try and go to the moon. They'll try and fly. They'll try and float. They'll try and, innovation is where people go. Innovation is derived from people who actually are doing that work. So I would just have to say that, it is very difficult out there.
Yes, and the other question I think you've already addressed, it talked about internships and entry-level opportunities at Cyber. So we'll share that link with our audience. And the other one was about when you mentioned the probability of a hire or even a win if you're in subcontracting. Does that extend over to part-time W-2s, 1099s, and those pursuing subcontracts?
Yes, it does. So I have always said to my family, I wish that they would teach taxes and all of those different things that's necessary to students before they get into the job career fields, because then they understand what a 1099 is, an independent contractor, or you work as a contractor for a bigger company. Yes, so.
It's good to know, definitely good to know. And the final question here I have, talked about best in class. So the resumes that you've seen, even just like you said, an incident earlier where you had hundreds to go through, to close out this session as well, describe Tony Still's best in class resume. What would jump out when you see it? You say, okay, I'm finished. I don't have to go through these other resumes. What would be a best in class resume that you're going to look for, so, especially for those pursuing cybersecurity?
Okay, for cybersecurity, I'm looking for. So if you look up what a CISSP, Certified Information System Security Practitioner, not necessarily the CISSP, but all of the little categories of domain encryption, all of the different things that the CISSP does. If you look up CISSP, CEH, Certified Ethical Hacking, right? And also I wanted to say, so I know it's cybersecurity, so I'm going to say CISSP, Security Plus, whether or not you're willing to work late hours, because the reality is that the cybersecurity is going to probably be applied at night, so that when people come in during the day, it's in place. Unfortunately, a lot of the way the federal government is moving is, people don't want to work at night. So they're doing fixes during the day. We're moving from a society where, and it's called, we're moving into the cloud. What does that mean? What that means is a lot of the information, for example, people have their cell phones, which are the new computer. The previous speaker spoke of his computer, but I will tell you that the new iPhones and Androids that are coming out are just as powerful, if not more powerful than the phones, because they're mobile. They have energy. If they're not plugged in, you can plug them into the solar. They're small. And they are just as powerful. And I would say to these young folks, instead of going to buy an app, learn how to create an app. It's not that difficult. You can create the apps for the future. You can be your own boss. You can learn the code, because the code has gotten easier. So saying that you can code, saying that you have the CISSP, maybe going to a website and looking at the different technologies for malware analysts, forensics, forensics analysis, networking, CCNA, all of those different certifications, Microsoft. Just look at these big companies. Cloud is the biggest one right now. Cloud is basically just, instead of you storing all of the data on your phone, everybody has a phone. They have to turn off that switch, because now they're finding that these phones are sending your pictures and your files and everything to some place somewhere else, just in case there's a backup. But that backup is not on your phone, and it's not in your house. So is anybody looking at that data? Is anybody sharing that data? Is anybody using that data? Yes. Those different technologies, the networking, the cloud, if you can get these classes on those, you will be putting yourself ahead. Just doing a little research. What is Azure? What is Microsoft putting out? What is Amazon putting out for cloud? If I see these things in a resume right now, there's an application called Salesforce that's going to be pervasive in the United States government. Learn how to do some of the things that are government enterprise tools that will get you a job by itself right out of high school.
And Tony, that's great. And we'll close on that, but we're definitely going to invite you back for our event in October. We've started working with the exascale era. So October 18th marks 10 to the 18th.
I got it written down.
Yes, it. Absolutely. So right now it's and Tony Simplify as always, sir. Thank you so much. And so Sandy, we're going to go down to the student. I think we have one or two students that are going to just talk briefly about their programs, and we will adjourn for the weekend.
On a stormy night in Philadelphia, with only a kite, a house key, and wet hamstring, Benjamin Franklin captured lightning in a bottle. Over 260 years later, with a little resourcefulness, ingenuity, and grit, we're not only capturing energy from the sun and wind, we're storing it. So even when the sun isn't shining and the wind isn't blowing, we're still powering America forward. As the nation's leader in energy storage, and as the world's largest generator of wind and solar energy, we're ensuring Americans have the energy they need, whenever they need it. This is our era. This is America's energy era. Next Era Energy.